Siphiwe, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Siphiwe Moyo. So we're going to start by having a chat, a one-way chat for about 20 minutes, and then after that, we're going to have a discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. So I thought I'll chat to you today about a topic entitled Your Move, how to position yourself for progress beyond this crisis. There's really no doubt that the world as we know it has been turned upside down. There's just no doubt about it. And all of us are already grappling with what are we going to do as we go forward. I'm trying to just get my slides. I don't know why it's not moving. Just a second. There's really no doubt that the world as we know it has been turned upside down. And many of us bewildered, we are tired, we just want to know what can we do about our careers going forward. What we used to call the organization of the future has actually arrived. There was a time we used to say the organization of the future is coming. We used to say virtual work is coming. You remember that time we would say virtual work is coming, robots are coming, it is coming, baby, are you? No, sorry. But there was a time we used to think all these things are coming, but they're no longer coming, right? They are here. Virtual work is here. We're all right now tuned in virtually and we're trying to figure out what we are going to do. This thing called job security is dead. The only security that you can have now is to improve your own employability and your own skills. So there isn't really something called job security anymore. We're expected to be digital and automation savvy. Many of us were hearing of Zoom, WebEx, MS Teams for the first time, but you kind of have to adapt very, very quickly in this age. And therefore, we're expected to be agile, to be flexible, and to be ambidextrous. The word ambidextrous means being able to look at the back and look forward at the same time. But more, it's important to have a bit of foresight right now as we move along. The augmented workplace is no longer coming as well. It is here. But I wanted to chat to us very, very quickly about how we respond to this crisis, because I believe that there are two types of responses that we could have in this crisis. And you know, when you're watching boxing, for those of us who love watching a bit of boxing, you would know that there's two types of styles when you box. The first style is what we call back foot type of boxing. When you are boxing in a back foot position, you are leaning back, you are taking all the punches, you are being defensive, you're allowing everything to be thrown at you, you are just sitting back and taking all the punches. So I propose that the back foot type of position, it's not what we should be doing. Those are the dons. And what would be these back foot positions? So if you think about it, if you're going to panic, panic is a back foot type of position and response in this crisis, because it's not going to help us to panic, because when you're in panic, you are paralyzed by fear, by the fear of losing your job, by the fear of losing your income, that you sit and do nothing. I know this doesn't look good, but there are a few things that we can do, and panic is just not one of them. The second back foot type of response is those people who don't care. There are some people who are just like, oh, whatever. I'm trying to roll my eyes and they're not rolling. Are they rolling? Give me some action. Spoo, are my eyes rolling there? Give me a thumbs up, bro. I think I'm rolling my head rather than my eyes. But having a response where you don't care, that's also not a good response, because we've only seen a little bit of what's going to happen. This thing is here. It's not going anywhere. You don't sit and just hope for the better. There are certain things that you can do. What I'm going to propose is that we have a front foot position. We have a front foot type of response to it. When you're boxing in a front foot way, you are attacking, you are fighting, you are giving yourself a chance. It's like for those of us who know football, you cannot, if you're gonna lead Orlando Pirates 1-0, and you score your goal at 10 minutes. You know, Orlando Pirates is the best team in South Africa. So you can't, you can't score after 10 minutes and think you're gonna park the bus for a while. You still need to attack, you still need to do things that will be in your good stead. So I'm gonna propose that we have what we call a front foot position. Mangete, I see you say, good to have you here. So just like this code says, attack is the best form of defense. So we're not going to sit back and say, oh, it's crisis, it is over. We're going to attack, we're going to do certain things to position ourselves for progress, even beyond this crisis. So what are some of those things that we can be able to do? The first thing, ladies and gentlemen, is, and we're going to chat about this, I'll slow down, is to adopt what we call a growth mindset. And there's two types of mindsets that we can have as human beings when it comes to our career. You can either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. When you're a fixed mindset type of person, you are limited in your thinking. You say things like, I'm either good at it or I'm not. But if you're a growth mindset, you say, no, I can learn to do anything. Just give me time. If you're a fixed mindset, you're like, no, my abilities are changing. I can never learn anything. I'm changing, so I can never learn anything more. But when you're a growth mindset, you say my effort and attitudes can be determined by my own work. When you're a fixed mindset, you say, I can either do it or I can't. When you're a growth mindset, you're like, just give me time, I can learn. So I want us to adopt a growth mindset so that we can position ourselves for growth beyond this crisis. It's almost like a DJ by the name of Maphorisa. Those of us who are here in South Africa will know of a DJ called DJ Maphorisa. This guy, many people always accuse him and they say things like, you know, Maphorisa is now benefiting from Kabza the Small. He doesn't know how to play piano. He's always fiddling with all kinds of genres. Why doesn't he stick to one thing? But I want to propose to you that that's exactly what we need to do. This guy called Maphorisa, many people don't know. About 10 years ago, this guy used to create a very, very different music than what he's creating now. This is the same guy who gave us that song that's called, I like your waist in particular. Can I get, I think it goes something like that. I'm too old, but it goes something like that. The same guy gave us the Lindo and this Java type of vibe. This is the same guy that produces that. But he then moved with the times, gave us the same music called Gom. The same music called Gom, which is a strange thing that goes. Jacqueline, if you could mute yourself, please. Thank you very much. And gave us Gom, some strange thing that goes in Durban. It just goes googly, googly, googly. That's all it does. But now he's doing what we call a piano, or if you are young, it's called the Janos. Why does he do that? Because he understands that in terms of our growth, we all follow some kind of a graph, a curve, similar to a product life cycle curve. When you start in your career, you are introduced into that career you start, and then you have a sharp growth. After a while, your career matures, and if you do nothing, it declines. So we all go through that. It's introduction, steep growth, mature, and then after that, if you do nothing at the mature stage, it's going to decline. So what Maphorisa has always been able to do is that if you could see that this genre is going down, or it's becoming matured right now, he would start another curve, start a different ground. This is what we call disrupting yourself. Start another curve, and he would start another curve. We have another 4 years with this music and another 4 years. So I want to propose that we need a growth mindset, and we need to think about, how can I reinvent myself? How can I start another curve? How can I teach myself something that I didn't know before? So that's the first thing, a growth mindset. The second thing is to think deeply. When we talk about career growth, there's two types of learning you could do. Obviously, it's what we call breadth and depth. So when we talk about how we grow, you need both the depth in your skill, in whatever you do, and you need a bit of depth. So I want to propose that in these times, we need both depth and breadth. What are those things? So when you're talking about depth, you're talking about technical expertise, If I'm an accountant, I become a better accountant. You become a superior performer year after year in your current job. You have depth of organizational knowledge where you are. You are a trusted resource within an organization. But when we talk about breadth, we talk about agility, promotable outside of your work area, easily learning new functions, and all of that. So we still need depth, but we need a bit of breadth in these tough times. So you need to think about, because sometimes in an organization, becoming a reliable specialist can work against you. If you are the reliable specialist and you are the only one who knows how to operate a particular system, every time they're thinking of promoting you, they're thinking, hey, we're going to lose that resource. So sometimes you have to be a specialist, but also be multidisciplinary. So we need to think about that. And there's a few things that you can do to position yourself as an expert now before the crisis ends, before COVID-19 ends. There's a few things you can do to position yourself as an expert right now. The first thing is produce a lot of content in your new pivot. So if you've identified a career that you want to try and do beyond this, this is the right time to go deep into that content and understand it better than anybody else. Secondly, firstly, you can go and be a deep study in that career, and you can start positioning yourself in print media, TV, radio, and it's very easy to position yourself as an expert these days because of technology. So you have to use the phone that you have very, very wisely these days. The phone that you have is not only for going to Facebook and Instagram, but you can use it wisely, like this gentleman called Kaya Dlanga. You know, many of us might know Kaya Dlanga, but none of us really knew this guy about 11 years ago. He was a struggling waiter in Cape Town about 11 years ago, but he had always wanted to be in advertising. He studied at the AAA School of Advertising for a while, but dropped out because he didn't have fees. But he became resourceful. The ability to mark a plan is what we need right now. So he took his phone, and because he wanted to be in advertising and HR people like me didn't give him interviews because he dropped out before he finished his degree, he started filming himself as an advertising executive. So he would take a video on his phone and say, if I was handling the Nando's ad, this is what I would do. This would be my concept. This is how I would do, and put it on YouTube, when none of us knew there was something called YouTube. So he managed to do that and positioned himself as an expert using his phone. And what he would then do, he would hoy all these videos. When he started, he had 0 views on YouTube. If you go to his YouTube now, he has had 5.2 million views on YouTube. Started converting that into his Twitter followers. I think he has about 460,000 followers now. And if you don't think that's impressive, just consider the fact that you have 8 followers. And and you will see how impressive 460,000 is. So he did that, and eventually has worked for big advertising agencies in South Africa, all the big ones. He has won every advertising award. He has been head of communication for Coca-Cola, for Heineken, and now he's the chief marketing officer of this new company called Rain. Why? Because he just used his phone. It became resourceful in creating content. I want to propose that this is the time to create content and position yourself for progress beyond this crisis. The other thing you can do, I know I was chatting to a friend of mine who loves sports and who's been a player for a while, that if you've been a player and it looks like your opportunity of playing is shrinking, what do? You position yourself as a sports analyst. My friend knows every sport. He knows cricket, he knows tennis, he knows everything. And I told him, this is the right time to position yourself as a sports analyst. You have a lot of time, get your stats right, shoot your own videos analyzing all kinds of soccer matches, previous soccer matches, put it on YouTube, put it on LinkedIn. Beyond this, you'll be known as one of the sports analysts in this country, and a TV gig is inevitable. So use this time to start doing those types of things in order to pivot into a new type of role. And you have to prepare now, all have to prepare in advance, because by the time you get an opportunity, it's too late to prepare. So we have to prepare now when we're at home, because when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. It's like when you're an Itumeleng Kune and Brian Baloyi is the goalkeeper both at Kaizer Chiefs and at Bafana Bafana, you start thinking you will never get your opportunity, but you will. You start thinking Brian will play forever, but he also needs to retire. So start positioning yourself now so that by the time the coach says, okay, Mr. Kune, it's your opportunity. You don't start asking questions like, hey, where do I stand in the goal? Because you would have been preparing. So use the time in this lockdown to prepare in advance. Why? Because if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And to illustrate this point, I always find it fascinating, and I'll keep quiet and then we'll have a bit of interaction. I don't know, many of us know a gentleman by the name of John Robbie, who was a talk show host, a breakfast show host for about more than 20 years. And he always tells a story of how he got to radio. It was just fascinating. So John Robbie was a sports anchor in a show which was done by a guy called John Bex. And John Bex was an amazing host, but John was doing sports in his show. And then one day, John Bex was not able to do his show. And normally the program's manager will call the afternoon drive person. They would call somebody else to come and stand in, but they couldn't find someone who could stand in. And then John, because he was already in studio about to do sports, he said, I think I can try. And the program's manager was like, how do you know this? And I was like, okay, I'll make you a deal. Let me stand in for him until you can find a stand-in. The show starts at 6. If you find a stand-in at 10 past 6, I'll step away, no problem. If you find a stand-in even at 5 past 6, I'll stand away. And then he says, okay, I'll go do some calls. And then while he was doing some calls, John Robbie, when that button said, yes, now you are on, he unleashed one of the best radio intros that the program manager has ever had. Why? Because he was preparing in advance. And that's how he got to radio. You have to use this time to prepare. And many of us, immediately after this COVID-19, someone is going to say, okay, here's your gig. You've always been wanting this gig. You've always been wanting to be the acting manager, do it. But if you are doing nothing during this crisis, you'll be found wanting. So it's time to prepare. Thank you very much. So I'll remove the screen and then we'll start having a discussion.
Wow, that was very profound. I kind of liked that, Mr. Moyo. And but I need to say, uJesu uyinkosi yamakhosi. Amen. Not saying anything, just putting it out there. That is quite informative when you say we ought to position ourselves for progress. And you've made quite very significant, you referred to quite significant people there when you're talking about your John Robbie's, your Itumeleng Kune and Ukaya Danga that we see. But I'm sitting at home now and I am, let's say I'm a student at UJ and I'm studying towards a course that my parents made me to study towards. And I'm listening to you and I'm liking the discussion that we are having now. But the question that I have is, how do I then position myself for where I want to go when what I am already studying is not what I like, but it is what makes my parents happy? How do I turn myself around and position myself for the next level or the next stage?
Thanks, Ez. So this is my answer. Do not worry about what you are studying now. It's not a waste of time. Okay. In the world that we're in now, in this changing world of work, what you are studying is not as important, to be honest, as the kind of critical thinking you are learning there. You are learning to analyze case studies. You're learning how to think. How to think is more important than what you are thinking. So you're not wasting your time. No matter what you are studying, you can always use what you are studying to position yourself for a different type of environment. So don't worry, keep studying, keep doing what you are studying. It's always going to be, it's not a waste of time at all, because the skills that you are learning, you can use them in your different career. It's not really about what you're studying. It's about how you can use what you're studying for what you want.
Okay, thank you. I saw quite another question that is quite almost what I wanted to ask as well. When I was growing up, I was trying to figure out exactly what is it that I'm good at. And I think that's what we go through, most of us as teenagers, when we're teenagers, where you're trying to figure out exactly what you're going to be when you grow up, and how do you figure that one out. That's the question that I have right now. At what point do you figure out that this is who I am meant to be? At what point do you learn to say, I am positioning myself for where I am going as far as the future is concerned, when I don't even know where I'm supposed to be going?
Yeah. I've learned and have written and have taught a few models about how to find your passion, your purpose, and so on. But one of my favorite is by Jim Collins. And Jim Collins' model is practical for me because he says your purpose is in the sweet spot of 3 circles. The first circle is about what you love doing. The second one is what you are capable of doing, because what you love, sometimes it's not what you are capable. Like I really love to sing, but when I open my mouth, so it's about what you love doing, what you are capable of doing, and what the market is also willing to pay for what you're doing. So the economics is also good, right? Because people who just say, just follow what you love, that's also not practical, because what if I love watching birds, but nobody will pay me for watching birds? So I think if you combine those 3 things, you will really get to the sweet spot of where you're supposed to be.
Sure. Okay, that's quite interesting. Theo, I think we can open the questions for everybody that wants to open the questions now. I don't have a view on the questions, but if you would like to share some of the questions that are there so that we can open up for other people. Trust me, I can go on and on. I can pick your brains till the cows come home.
But a few things you can do, Themba. Firstly, if you already have a job, if you already have a current gig, look after that gig right now. Because one of the mistakes that we do is, one of the biggest career mistakes that we do is to neglect your current while pursuing your next. And that's very bad, because if you don't look after your current, you're going to lose even the current that you have. You can't pay bills and so on. So my advice is look after the current gig. Do your best where you are right now, and then try and leverage your skills. So start doing part-time, start having a side hustle, start positioning yourself as an HR expert by writing articles, by speaking for free at HR conferences, by networking, joining the HR professional body, which I've had a privilege of serving in, and so on. So you start doing those things gradually, because how reinventing yourself normally works, it's very gradual and then it's very sudden. So you want to do it very gradual, and then you will see eventually it will be very sudden once you've managed to do it. But do it gradually. You don't want to lose whatever you are earning right now. Keep looking after that gig, and then position yourself slowly, as I've suggested. My view on mentorship is everybody needs a mentor. You need a sounding board. You need someone who's going to tell you the truth. But I think many of us complicate this thing called mentorship. So many of us go to people who are very, very busy, and we say, may you please be my mentor? May you please meet every month? And then it's kind of overwhelming, all right? And sometimes many of these people have written a book. They do Zoom calls like this. And so someone can be your mentor without ever have, meeting. So initially, read their books, go to their Facebook, go to whatever they post, and then eventually they will open a door for you to send a WhatsApp message without formalizing and say, I want to please be my mentor. They will open a door, you ask, and then eventually that door people can start meeting and so on. But I think we overwhelm people by asking them, can you be my mentor? Let's meet every month, instead of doing it gradually, reading their books, their blogs, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's a very, very interesting question. And I think there's a few things you can do here. If you've started a few businesses, different businesses, you have to do two things in my view. The first one is you have to just do a bit of an audit on the businesses that you have done and think whether did they not succeed because you didn't have tenacity, or maybe the business model was just not right, or maybe the talent, you didn't really have the talent in that particular area. So I'll do a quick audit, and I've done this before. You send one of your closest friends WhatsApp and say, guys, you know, I like this teaching thing, I like this speaking thing. Can you really give me an objective view on whether I'm at least decent in doing this thing? I'm not looking for compliments. Give it to me as raw as it is. Because sometimes we think we're great, but everybody else is just rolling their eyes, but they're not telling us the truth. So firstly, do a bit of an audit on whether the businesses that you've started, you were good in them. If you were good, then we have to teach you a few things about tenacity and perseverance. And you're gonna have to start learning things about perseverance, about tenacity, about grit, so that you develop that grit and so on. But I would start with just doing that audit to check whether there was something there in the first place. So it could be all of those things, but luckily for you, they are quite interlinked. So fear can be a result of not believing in yourself, because it's very, very important to believe in yourself. So, and you can teach yourself, by the way, how to believe in yourself, which is great. I know there are people who believe in themselves generally, but those of us who struggle with self-confidence, you can actually teach yourself how to believe in yourself. And there's a few things that you can actually do. One of them is to have smaller goals that you can reach, so that they'll give you more confidence. So confidence comes from success and achievement. So if you can see yourself doing small little things and they succeed, you then believe in yourself a little bit more. So if you doubt yourself, start small. You don't have to go and apply for a 1 million rand loan. Start small and achieve a smaller goal. The more you achieve that goal, you're going to believe in yourself a little bit more. And then also just associate with people who are very, very positive. People sometimes who can believe in yourself more than you actually believe in yourself, you know. And you need people like that in your life as well, because they at least help you. Yeah, so you know, I'm a lecturer, so I always look at the research first. There's a research that I teach a subject called organizational behavior. And in organizational behavior, we talk a lot about someone who either has an external locus of control or an internal locus of control. So when you have an external locus of control, you believe everything is about luck. You believe that whatever you are doing does not help, because you just need connections. You just need to be in the right place at the same time, at the right time. And then people who have an internal locus of control, they believe in looking in the mirror and say, I'm in charge of my own destiny. And you need a little bit of both, to be honest with you. You need, it's like when you are a farmer. When you are a farmer, you need two things to succeed. Firstly, you need work ethic, you need skill on the one hand, work ethic and skill, but you also need the cooperation of the rain, of the weather, right? And sometimes it does not mean you are a bad farmer if you're not getting good fruit. It's just the weather is not cooperating. But if you are a skilled farmer, you know that you must never wait for the weather. You do things that are within your control, and then ilak izokuthola phambili. You do things that you can, and if there's any luck, it will find you there. One of the things we're finding, Masiho, is that this work-life balance thing is a myth, you know. There is absolutely nothing called work-life balance anymore. because of just how the world has changed, you know. And so what is important is to have deep work. So when you are in your research, you go deep, you focus, and this multitasking thing does not work. You focus on that, and then when you are in your public speaking, you focus on that very, very deep without being distracted by a lot of things. So I think for now, be kind on yourself, because also this period is a bit tricky for us. So making those types of decisions in this current period where you're probably having anticipatory anxiety is not going to help you at all. So I think see this period through and just check whether you actually do have capacity to do these things, to be honest with you, because we also live in this world that you must hustle forever, have 7 jobs, but we are also not being kind to ourselves. So I would do an objective view of whether the things that I want to do, are they actually practical to be done at the same time now before I commit myself.
Okay.
In business, man, you can never have guarantees. I've had 5 failed businesses already, and you can never have guarantees, you know. But luckily for me, my risk tolerance is very, very high. I don't mind failing, but at the same time, you learn to do it better, you know. So there is absolutely no guarantees. But if you are a person like me, who is not afraid of risk, you want to make sure that you bounce off certain decisions on some of your friends who are very risk averse. So I have a friend who's a proper accountant, who is like, nah, that thing is not going to work. You need that other voice that's going to calm you down. Because when you're an entrepreneur like me, you're like, risk, so what? Let's do it. But you need somebody else who's going to give you a different input. But the honest truth is there are no guarantees. You do your best and you bounce back. We're not even sure even the business models that we've had now, they're going to survive the crisis, but we're okay. We're doing our best to pivot, to reinvent ourselves and so on. That's the only thing you can do in my view. There's absolutely no guarantees in business. You mustn't have that kind of attitude that says, I'm going to have to translate this. You mustn't have that attitude that says, let me just go in. No, you must pause, do proper due diligence, and then after that, take your decisions. 2 things you can do. The first one is work very hard to gain credibility and give your employers a chance to see a different you. So the way you position yourself at work sometimes can be to your own detriment. If you've always positioned yourself as someone who is junior, someone who's a specialist, a reliable specialist, they think that's actually all you know. So you have to try and position yourself quite differently and let them see a different side of you. Even if you have to quantify your value, sometimes you have to learn how to quantify the value that you're bringing and say, I've done this project, it has given us this amount of returns. So you can do that first. If that fails, there's absolutely no reason why you can't take your skills elsewhere where they can see your value. But start with number 1.
Okay, and then I've got a comment from Aikunu.
Yeah, shoot your shot. Yeah, that sounds amazing. First of all, congratulations on that MCOM. It can't be, it couldn't have been easier. Yeah, man, I'm willing. I'm willing to chat beyond this, and we can partner on project. That would be great. Just remember what I said. Sometimes we complicate this thing and say, let's meet, let's go through our plans. Sometimes the fact that we can engage. I think one of my mentors is on the line right now. Mr. Buyanzwan Mangeta, are you still on? So, you know, Buyanzwan is here. You are still here. Thank you, sir. You know, I've never said to him, can you please be my mentor? Let's structure a program. But the fact that I can WhatsApp anytime and say, Mangete, how can I approach this? That's good enough. So we don't have to complicate this thing. I don't know if you have anything to add there, sir.
Absolutely correct. And if anything, when there is a desire to be able to grow yourself, it becomes possible to be able to get people who are going to back you up in what you do. What becomes important is for you to be clear about what you truly are pursuing. Opportunities will always arise, but as you rightfully pointed out earlier on in your presentation, Siphiwe, excellent presentation. If you stay ready, you don't have to be ready. And that's a critical thing. So constantly looking out for people who are going to be able to build you up and learn from them. As you rightfully also pointed out, you don't have to be having coffee session, as we haven't done that. But we can be able to grow ourselves and become better people just by learning, following through, be it through your Facebook connections, be it through your Twitter connections, and just tagging along and beginning to pick up what are the pearls of wisdom that get to be dropped every now and again. So we're on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. But I'm willing to help, bro. After this, let's chat.
Okay. Thank you to Buyani for coming in there. Just to remind everybody.
Things that, you know, are music to your soul. Get outside if you can, in your yard if you can, get the sun, get some nice music. We also need to look after ourselves in these tough times. So as much as we're positioning ourselves, let's also look after ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you
so much for availing us.